Welcome to ValueVest Daily. Today, we're going to look past the usual headlines. We're going beyond the AI stocks that everybody's talking about to uncover the foundational physical stuff that makes this entire revolution even possible. These aren't the names you hear on the news every night, but as we're about to see, they are the companies building the actual engine room of artificial intelligence.
So this is the big question, right? It's really easy to get caught up in the chip designers. They're the brains of the whole operation, for sure. But what we're seeing now is that the AI boom is creating a crisis of physical reality. It's a crisis of power, a crisis of connectivity, and as investors, you know that a crisis for one industry is almost always a massive multi-year opportunity for another. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain on that hidden story. And this chart, wow, it really puts a number on that crisis. This is not a small increase. Goldman Sachs is projecting that power demand from data centers is going to surge by a staggering 175% by the end of this decade. I mean, to put that into perspective for you, that surge is basically like adding a whole new top 10 electricity-consuming country to the world. Let that sink in for a second. We are literally building the power grid of a new industrial nation just to fuel AI.
All right, so here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to dig a little deeper into this hidden power problem. Then we'll get into the three boring but absolutely essential companies that are providing the solutions. Chevron for the raw energy, Eaton for the grid itself, and Corning for the connectivity. And finally, we'll wrap it all up by looking at the risks and a potential strategy for how to think about all this.
So before we can even talk about the solutions, we have to really wrap our heads around the scale of the problem. And it is huge. To put it simply, these new AI data centers are the most power-hungry technology that humanity has ever built on a mass scale. They don't just sip electricity, they absolutely guzzle it in these massive, unpredictable bursts that our current grid was just never, ever designed to handle.
And here's where the rubber meets the road. I mean, the existing grid is already starting to creak and groan under the pressure. We're talking about data centers being responsible for almost half of all new power demand growth in the US this decade. We're already seeing electricity prices climbing. But the real crisis, the really scary part, is in the physical hardware. Transformers, substations, they are literally failing because they can't handle these wild power swings from AI. This is creating a bottleneck so severe it threatens to slow down the entire AI revolution.
Okay, so that brings us to our first company, and this one might surprise you. Chevron. Yeah, I know, when you think AI, you probably don't think of a classic oil and gas giant, but Chevron is making this absolutely fascinating pivot. This isn't just about oil anymore, it's about becoming a direct, dedicated energy provider for the AI industry, building power plants specifically to solve that grid problem we were just talking about.
And their strategy, which you see here, it's beautifully simple. Instead of waiting in line for years and years to connect to a strained public grid, Chevron is using its own natural gas to build what they're calling power foundries. These are brand new, super efficient power plants, and they're building them right next door to the data centers. They're completely bypassing the public grid. It's like having your own private energy highway. And this isn't some small side project, okay? The scale here is immense. Their partnership with GE Vernova is targeting 4 gigawatts of new capacity. So what does 4 gigawatts even mean? Well, think about this. It's enough electricity to power over 3 million American homes. This is a full-blown utility-scale operation that is dedicated entirely to AI. And look, this isn't some 10-year plan that might happen someday. This timeline shows you just how fast this is all moving. They're already in talks with what's called a major hyperscaler. That's just industry speak for one of the giant tech companies. With a final decision expected in early 2026, they're on track to have the first power flowing in 2027. That is a super clear runway to significant new revenue, and it's right around the corner. Okay, so Chevron is generating the raw power. But how does that power get from the plant into the building and safely and efficiently to the server racks without everything, blowing up? Well, that's where our next company, Eaton, comes into the picture. They provide the high-tech plumbing, the switchgear, the control systems, all the critical wiring that these data centers desperately need to handle AI's unique power demands. This slide really shows you the before and after. It's a massive technological leap. For decades, data centers just ran on standard AC power, but that's just too inefficient and frankly, dangerously unstable for AI. So Eaton is Nvidia's key partner in shifting the entire industry to a brand new standard, 800-volt high-voltage direct current, or HVDC. This new architecture is built from the ground up to handle the insane power density of modern GPU racks, making them way more efficient and stable. And this partnership? This is the real kicker. This isn't just a press release. It's a deep engineering collaboration where Eaton is literally co-designing the new electrical standard for the entire AI industry, right alongside Nvidia. They are creating the power solutions for Nvidia's next-gen hardware, which is just incredible. Now, the key thing to get here is that Eaton isn't just selling a single component like a fancy power strip. No, these sell what they call the grid-to-chip suite. It's the entire intelligent system, engineered specifically to handle AI's power bursting problem. You know, where a rack's power draw can swing up or down by 50% in just a few seconds. Old gear would literally fry. Eaton's system is designed to prevent that catastrophic failure. All right, let's recap. We've got fuel from Chevron, we've got the power delivery system from Eaton, but inside that data center, all those thousands of GPUs, how do they talk to each other at the speed of light? They need a nervous system, right? A super fast one. And that is where our third company, Corning, enters the picture.
If you needed just one single data point to prove that this AI fiber boom is for real, this is it. A massive, multi-year, $6 billion agreement between Corning and Meta. And this is purely to supply the optical fiber for Meta's next-gen AI data centers. This one deal instantly confirms Corning as a top-tier beneficiary of all this AI infrastructure spending.
And this slide really gets to the heart of why this is a non-negotiable upgrade. The old copper wires, they just fail when you're training these massive AI models. The bandwidth isn't there. It's like trying to drink from a fire hose through a coffee straw. It just doesn't work. Optical fiber provides the absolute highest speed with the lowest latency, which lets you create these incredibly dense GPU clusters. It's not a choice anymore. For high-end AI, it has to be fiber.
And Corning isn't just another supplier here. They are the undisputed market leader. These are the guys who pioneered modern optical fiber. This leadership is why Meta isn't just buying their product. Meta is actually helping to anchor the expansion of Corning's plant in North Carolina. They're helping fund their suppliers' growth just to make sure they get the supply they need. That tells you everything.
All right, so now that we've looked at the opportunities with these three companies, let's pull back for a second. How should we think about them as part of a balanced portfolio? And maybe more importantly, what are the specific risks that we need to be watching out for?
Here's a really simple way to look at this whole playbook. If Nvidia is the AI compute engine, then these three are the essential support systems. Chevron is the fuel supply, Eaton is the power delivery, and Corning provides the data highways. And you'll notice a common theme here, right? They are all established, dividend-paying companies, which offers a very different kind of profile from those high-flying tech stocks.
And this side just shows one potential way to think about allocation. And obviously, this is just an idea, not advice. But you could think about balancing your core AI compute plays, like Nvidia, with a pretty significant allocation to these physical enablers. It's a way to stay exposed to the AI megatrend while diversifying away from pure semiconductor risk and getting into the industrial backbone of it all. But, of course, this is not a risk-free investment. Let's be real, nothing is. Each of these companies has its own specific headwinds you gotta watch out for. For Chevron, it's always gonna be the volatility of energy prices. For Eaton, the big risks are project execution and those infamous grid permitting delays. And for Corning, well, their growth is really dependent on big tech continuing to spend billions on AI. If that spending slows down, so will Corning's growth.
And of course, please remember, this explainer is purely for educational and informational purposes. It is not financial or tax advice. You should always, always do your own research and talk with a professional before making any investment decisions.
Please subscribe, like, and share Value Vest Daily for daily learning opportunities before you put your money to work. And one more thing. Drop a comment below and let us know if you want us to deep dive into any specific high-risk, high-reward opportunities. We read all of them. Thanks for watching.